Welcome to Pause, a podcast that dives deep into the biotech stories and features biotech leaders. I'm one of your co-hosts, Fang Xie.
I'm your other co-host, Yosef Baidi.
The podcast is brought to you by the Harvard Biotech Lab, a student-led Harvard-affiliated biotech organization, which is on a mission to bridge the gap between the academia and industry.
Today's guest is Stephanie Oestreich. Stephanie Oestreich is Managing Director of the Myeloma Investment Fund. Stephanie conducted research for her PhD, specifically working on RNA in Jack Chostek's lab at Harvard Medical School, and obtained an MPA from the Harvard Kennedy School. Previously, she's worked in the business development commercial side in large pharma companies such as Novartis, and then worked into smaller biotech companies afterwards before going into venture capital. Outside of being a scientist, she's also a semi-professional violinist, and she performs with Philharmonic orchestras in Carnegie Hall and other international venues as well. So to learn more about these varied experiences, we're very excited to have Stephanie on the podcast.
Thank you. Very excited to be here today.
Yeah, thanks for coming. And we wanted to start the podcast a little bit by just hearing more about your upbringing. So could you tell us a little bit about kind of where you're from and then kind of what got you into science?
I am, as far as I know, made in Berlin, Germany. I'm from Germany originally. My mother is Austrian. My dad is German. And my mother was a homemaker, so really cared very nicely for us as kids. And later on, my dad worked for the German government. And they're not scientists, and they're also not musicians. So they were very supportive in everything I did. But I went to one of the best high schools in Germany, or in Berlin. And I always had an interest in medicine and science. Unfortunately, like many of us, I had some personal experiences in my family with some diseases that where people were afflicted by them. Through no fault of their own, and me with being the healthy one and having all this energy, I really wanted to devote my life to bringing as many therapies to patients as possible. So that's how I got into science.
It's really cool here. So I guess that experience with family members with disease kind of led you to pursue this PhD specifically in bio?
Yes, I was thinking about medicine and bio, but I was more interested, let's say, in the theoretical side of biology and chemistry, and that's why I chose biochemistry.
Cool.
And you decide to pursue a PhD then after,
Yes. I was academically very interested and started in Berlin and had the opportunity to do a lot of internships at companies. And I was at the Weizmann Institute in Israel for 3 months, worked with another Nobel Prize winner there, Ada Yona, to crystallized ribosomes, and worked at the Scripps Institute with Paul Schimmel, and wanted to really do a PhD.
That's really cool. So it sounds like you had a lot of biomedical research experience early on, and we also saw while you were in grad school, you also earned an MPA degree as well. So what was your interest in getting that degree in addition to the PhD?
While I was living in Boston, I was becoming part of the Boston biotech ecosystem, and I realized I really wanted to be on the company side, and I felt like I needed some additional education, and I had a lot of friends who were at the Harvard Kennedy School, and I thought that was really interesting, not just to have kind of an economics background or just a business background, but also to really understand how our public agencies making certain decisions on drug approvals, but also funding decisions. And that was really very beneficial for me to get this degree.
Okay, that's really cool. And you kind of had that interest, like you'd worked in industry before even, so it kind of was good to plan to be like, okay, I'll get this degree to kind of help out with making that jump.
Yes.
Which it sounds like you did after your PhD. Like you made the jump to industry working at Novartis.
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of know a little bit more about how you made that career jump.
Yeah, so I was very lucky when I finished my PhD. Actually, Novartis moved their research headquarters from Basel, Switzerland, to Cambridge, and I really wanted to be part of what was called the Strategic Alliances Group, the early business development group. And that was probably one of the most challenging parts of my career, to go from academia into business directly without a business background. But I had done a few things that helped with this. I worked with Gary Pisano at the Harvard Business School, was his research associate, so had a little bit of a business background. And I also met the head of the Strategic Alliances Group, Jeremy Levin, at a networking event. And just approached him and said I would be really interested to work with you. I have a science background. And he said, yeah, come tomorrow, and we're going to do an interview. And the rest was history. So yeah, little case study how important it is to go to networking events.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're very important, I think.
Yeah. So it's a strategic alliance at Novartis.
That was at Novartis, and that was the preclinical business development group. So we did a number of deals at the time, collaboration with Morphosis, which Novartis just bought eventually. Alnylam was important. I was involved in that. Phil Sharp's company at the time, and with my RNA background, that was very interesting. Yeah, and really learned business development from the ground up, and learned how a big pharma company is evaluating opportunities. And that was very beneficial for me, or is beneficial even now.
Mm-hmm. It's really cool. So I guess you started out in that, and you'd been in different roles at Novartis. So could you tell us a little bit more about that? Like, you had been also the chief of staff to the CEO as well while you were there.
Yeah, that was a great opportunity for me. So some of the career moves you can plan, and others, come to you, and you just have to take advantage of the opportunity. So I was actually introduced to the CEO by the former CSO. Mm-hmm. The connection came through because we had done a lot of these collaborations, and the CEO saw that we were a very effective group, and he was looking for a new assistant. And I spoke different languages. I had a science background, but also a little bit of an artistic streak with my violin background. So so I worked for the Novartis CEO at the time, Dan Vasella, for 2 years. Was his executive assistant, did all his presentations, but also worked on some special projects, and that was a really great opportunity from the leadership perspective.
Yeah, interesting. So during your time in Novartis, and then you switched to, various roles like head of institutional business, U.S. marketing, disease area leader for multiple myeloma. Could you please share with us what you have learned from working in this different area at the company? I know that we know that Novartis is a very successful company. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but could you tell us your experience working in a big pharma and so many different roles?
That was a great opportunity for me to work in a large pharma company, first in business development, and then have this leadership perspective at the CEO's office, and then go to the commercial side. And so I worked in different countries, in local, regional, and global roles, and also did a total of 6 launches. So brought drugs to the market, and did this in different indications, different disease areas, and really learned a lot about different markets also. So you mentioned the institutional business role, for instance, that was in Asia, Middle East, Africa, and there's very, very different markets there. Some have what is called a tender business, so you have to bid for this, and you have to be very prepared on the pricing, et cetera, et cetera. The government is really your customer, and others have very large accounts, like in Korea, for instance, very large hospitals. And so I learned a lot about different markets, different approaches to marketing, but also a lot about different disease areas, and especially the launches I really enjoyed. It's always very exciting to work with regulatory and with development, and then plan for the launch, and then when you get the approval, you basically execute your plan, and also follow how the revenues are generated.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think like you had spent all this time at this company, but different regions, and I
Yes.
imagine like regulatory and development so different if it's U.S., Europe.
Yes.
So I imagine that was a big learning experience for you, learning to work in different geographic regions as well.
Yes, definitely, and that's also what a lot of the pharma companies do. They send you around to different countries and to give you leadership opportunities, and so I led teams there, and that was also a great personal experience. And yeah, so you have different markets that you get familiar with, different indications.
Cool. And I think at that point, you had started Novartis in the U.S. and moved to Europe to work in Novartis, and then you made a jump to working at a new company as well, Roche.
Yeah.
So could you tell us about how that transition was, like how it played out?
Yeah, that was fascinating. So there's the two different or big pharma companies, Novartis and Roche, both in Basel in Switzerland, across the river from each other. And even though, they're both big pharma companies in the same city, they have, or at the time, they had very, very different approaches. So Roche very focused on oncology, and the family is still very involved in Roche, and Novartis had a much broader set of businesses. So at the time when I was there were different business units like pharma, generics, OTC, animal health, vaccines, and it was there were different competitive forces within these different business units, but also how do you align the business units. I worked on a project to basically share synergies between the two. So it's very interesting to work for both of these companies. But when I was at Roche, I had a global marketing role, so I was responsible for a multi-billion product there, did another launch there, and that was very interesting too.
Cool. I think we looked a little bit more about your role at Roche, and I think part of it was with regards to Avastin, which is
Yes.
big, like kind of oncology drug.
Yes.
It was specifically for it was like breast cancer indications as well, you said?
Yes. So breast, I was responsible for the breast, ovarian, and cervical cancer indications.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
It's really cool to hear. And I think I guess it's expanded now. I feel like I'm working in the field of brain cancers. I know like glioblastoma, Avastin or bevacizumab is being used.
Yeah. I mean, colorectal cancer and other cancers. That's also what it's approved for.
yeah. I think now it's like the first line, second line
Yeah.
for some type of cancer. Yeah.
Yes. No, and it's also it's interesting now. It's also it's generic by now, but it's now also used together with PD-L1. In some cancers, this is, Judah Folkman, he discovered the mechanism of, how important angiogenesis is in oncology indications, and that's why it's being used together with, PD-L1.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think at this point of your career, you had mostly worked in like large pharma, and then you had made the move to working in like a smaller biotech companies, starting at Biotech at this time. So could you tell us more about your kind of rationale behind making this move at this point of your career?
Yeah, I thought it would be good to have much more direct operational experience at a smaller company. So when you're in a bigger company, you're relatively specialized because there's so many people, and you're much more focused. When you are in a biotech company, especially in a small biotech company, you have a much broader mandate. So I was at Biotech. I built up what's called the Bridges concept or business, which was a collaboration between universities, VCs, and Biotech, which were basically bridging this gap between early stage research out of universities and bringing that basically into a company. So we did that, and then I was at a cell therapy company, Memo Therapeutics, and helped to build this up. I think I was employee number 7, and first built it up in New York, and then they said, oh, you're European and you speak French, do you want to move to Paris? And I thought, oh, that's a real hardship. So so I moved to Paris and did the same there, and Yeah, then I was at a public biotech company, Galecto, was chief business officer there. So again, different experiences, but also, yeah, very interesting.
Yeah. Could you share your experience? Like, what did you learn about difference in working in pharma, or generally speaking, is biotech ecosystem in Europe compared to the U.S.?
Hmm. Generally, I would say the risk tolerance in the United States is much higher. In Europe, people there's a lot of great scientists, a lot of great universities, but the translation from the lab into a company is still much more difficult. And generally, if a company fails, you almost have a mark, on your forehead, and it's very hard to overcome this. Whereas here. Especially also on the West Coast, it's people know about 90% of the biotech companies fail, and it's just part of the experience. So you brush yourself up, and then you do the next experience. So I would say that's the major difference. But Europe is also not uniform. There's pockets, or there's countries where you have some very, very successful companies. Denmark, for instance. I mean, Paris also has some great VCs, and so Switzerland, is also building much more of also a startup ecosystem. And the UK around, which is not part of Europe anymore, but is around the universities, Oxford, Cambridge. So it's a little bit, depending on the country that you're looking at.
Yeah, that's good to kind of hear a little bit more about the risk averseness here compared to Europe. And you mentioned a little bit about like the difference of like your role or responsibilities at a bigger company compared to a smaller company. So I was wondering, did you kind of find a benefit that you started your career working at a larger pharma company where you have a very defined role, very like structured way of doing things, compared to now working in a smaller company where like you now have experience and maybe it was easier for you to make that transition compared to if you did the other way?
Yes, I deliberately chose that path to first go into a big company, to have all these different experiences, so that I can then draw from them in a biotech, or even now in the VC setting. I know people do it the other way around. You can do that too. You can start in a startup, build your startup, but I found this very beneficial to start in a big company. And I also now benefit from the experience, knowing how decisions are being made in a big pharma company when they're evaluating opportunities for partnering, and who are the different stakeholders. And also worked at that time with VC companies. So you probably know the JP Morgan Healthcare Conference. So the big pharma companies go to those. And when I was at Novartis, I was helping to prepare for this, and that was also my first foray into VC. And ultimately, I always wanted to be on the investor side.
It's an interesting point to make. So, like at this point, you had worked mostly in pharma and then biotech, and then made the jump to VC. Was it from these interactions at these conferences that kind of inspired you?
Yeah, that's really what inspired, and also what inspired the connections. I really liked to work in operational roles, and I thought my preference is to be on the investor side, because it's much more strategic. So if you are in a biotech company, you're very, very focused on either this one molecule or the platform you have to make successful. But if you are a VC, you are really looking at the whole environment.
Bigger picture.
Yeah, it's bigger picture, and then you make certain investment decisions, but you're really looking at the whole landscape.
Cool. So how did you make this jump from going from industry to actually working in VC?
Yeah, again, it was drawing from my operational experiences, and I had connections at RA Capital. So we talked about you interviewed Peter also on this podcast, and so I was a venture partner at RA Capital, and they brought me in to basically help to bring in European opportunities because, I had lived in Europe, I had connections there, and so it was a little bit difficult at that time because it was during the COVID pandemic, and it wasn't really possible to travel and to really network there. So that's why I wasn't there very long. But that was the background here. So I was more on the operational side within VC. So I wasn't investing.
Oh, okay. That's really cool to hear. And I imagine after years of experience, they really like having people that worked in pharma because of all the connections that you have.
Yeah, and that's often very beneficial for VCs, and they like people with operational experience.
Cool. So you had that early experience working at RA Capital, and it was at this point or a little later when you had made the move to your current job now, right? Working as like the managing director of the Myeloma Investment Fund at the Multiple Myeloma Research Foundation.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I wanted to do investing, and was contacted. So I had already done a launch in multiple myeloma. So most of my career had been in oncology. So, and I had been at a cell therapy company. So I was approached by a recruiter about this position, and I thought, oh, that's a great, it's a great opportunity because the fund already existed. So a little bit of a background: the Multiple Myeloma Research Foundation is a 26-year-old patient foundation that was started by a patient who was actually also an HBS grad and was in the industry. So when she was diagnosed, she really wanted to help to improve the situation for the patients. And the foundation is on the one hand providing information to patients, but really very importantly running and financing clinical trials, and that's really a unique feature here. And through that, there's really good connections to pharma companies, to KOLs, to the different centers, but also to investors. And that's what we in the fund are also bringing to our portfolio companies. And so 6 years ago, the decision was made to start a fund, a philanthropic fund. So that means we don't have limited partners as investors. We have donors that are either struck by this disease or have family members with the disease and who really want to help to find ultimately a cure for multiple myeloma. So the fund was set up, and now fast forward, we have made 20 investments.
Amazing.
17 are still active. We had 3 exits. We still get some milestones royalties from 2 of them, and it's really a mix of companies with different targets, different modalities, cell therapy, antibodies, etc. And we're also very happy that 5 of the companies are now in the clinic. 5 are very early, and 7 are sort of in the middle.
It's different strategies, but same indication, myeloma, right?
Always the same indication, but different approaches. Yes.
A different approach. Cool. Yeah.
That's really cool. And it's like, I guess as these get the clinic, like the revenue from that can be used for like the next kind of investments.
Exactly. So we're working on the fund being an evergreen fund. So we're almost there. And then so what we do is if a company goes public or if it gets acquired, so the proceeds are being invested in new companies. So we are not distributing this to donors, again, because we don't have investors. We put it back into new companies.
Okay.
Yeah, it's such a unique kind of format. So it's really cool to hear how it works with the Myeloma Investment Fund.
Yeah, and it's very exciting also because we're really the best informed investor in this space. We have recently also done a landscape overview and worked out what is still the white space, because it's a very complex area. There were 20 years or 10 years ago there were 5 drugs on the market. Now there's over 20, and there's over 300 projects in research and in development. So it's not trivial to really point out what are the areas of unmet medical need and what is true innovation, because we are really focused on moonshot innovation, not just incremental innovation. And we're going to have an event in a week where we are rolling this out.
That's really cool, yeah. Because I think, like you said, you get the focus on a certain area, so you have the expertise, but then you're able to take riskier or like longer term decisions because
Exactly.
you're focusing on multiple myeloma.
Yeah, we're really patient capital in the best sense of the word. So we invest initially into the companies, but then we also reserve capital for follow-on investments.
Okay. So for the audience or listener who may not know about like myeloma, could you tell us a little bit about myeloma? I mean, general landscape, I mean, treatment, or I mean, currently most challenging place in the field, and how did the myeloma investment fund contribute to?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a blood cancer. So it's so with that, cell therapy is a very important therapy here. But often so basically in cell therapy you modify the T cells and arm them to recognize and hopefully kill the tumor. But the T cells often get what we call exhaustion, so they're not effective for a very long time, and that's why, for instance, the so-called in vivo CAR T could be a really hopefully long-lasting therapy. We just invested in 2 in vivo CAR T companies this year and are very excited about that. But there's also many targets like MYC, MCL1, and a few others that are still not druggable or show a lot of side effects, and that's also where we're looking into finding companies that are working on those and developing therapies. And personally, I'm also very excited about one of our companies, Envisagenics. They're a Cold Spring Harbor spin-out, already a 10-year-old company, and they use AI to find novel targets from aberrant RNA splicing. And we provided some data to them. We have done a real-world data study with over 1,100 patients, and we provided some of those data to the company. And based on that, they were identifying a number of promising targets in multiple myeloma, and they're now validating those. And we're very excited about this approach.
Yeah, I think that's interesting too, that company you mentioned, because it's like using AI, which is like a very hot and like very cool area now, but also RNA splicing in terms of treatments for that is something that's new.
Yes, and I just visited the company in New York, and I think the secret sauce is really that the AI team and the wet lab team are working together very closely, and they continuously improve the algorithm, and that's why they're able to be successful.
Yeah. As you mentioned, you previously worked at RA Capital and now at a myeloma investment fund. We know it's a venture philanthropy fund and nonprofit, of course. Could you share a little more about the difference in strategy from working in the standard VC firm and to the nonprofit venture fund?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some similarities. Obviously, we all try to find really the best investments, and also from the philanthropic side, I want to emphasize that we really don't see any conflict here between being laser focused on this one indication, on myeloma, and really benefiting the patients with hopefully finding a cure. Because if we invest in really moonshot technologies, then we believe we will also generate outsized returns. So that's the first point. And the other similarity is we meet with our major donors also at least quarterly, like what you do in a traditional venture fund, where you have meetings with your LPs. But again, we're not providing returns to them, and many institutional VCs are also different in the sense that they can invest also in public companies and private companies. Some do company building. We are not company builders, and we don't lead around. We always participate in a syndicate. So and again, we're laser focused on this one indication. Many VC firms are much broader, have much broader focus areas. But we can really also invest internationally. We have 2 Israeli companies, we have 2 Canadian companies also. So it's there's variations of venture, both from the stage side, but also from the source of capital.
Cool. And then from what I understand, the Myeloma Investment Fund's a smaller VC firm too, right? So I imagine that kind of changes strategy. It's like easier to kind of pivot strategy and work with people when it's how big is the team?
The real team is just myself and my associates. So that's the core team. But we share or benefit from the foundation, the Multiple Myeloma Research Foundation's team. So we work very closely with the CSO, the CMO, the chief legal officer, the CFO.
That's really good to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, imagine it's a very different kind of format compared to working in like a larger pharma companies like at the beginning to now, where it's like you and a dark person on your team, but also with the people with the foundation.
But it's great to then you really have a good overview of everything. So for instance, we have a software that we use to manage our portfolio, so that we can really at the click of a button we know exactly how many opportunities have we looked at. So from the beginning of the fund, over 500, and how many are now in evaluation, negotiation. I mean we know obviously that we invested in 20 companies, so that part, and we also instituted a process how we evaluate the companies, and how we manage the different investments. And we also have a forecast where because we, as I mentioned, we invest and then we also initially we invest and then we reserve capital for follow-on investments.
Okay, great. Yeah.
And then from your like kind of vast experiences working at like larger pharma companies, smaller biotech, you have this experience in industry and then now in VC. So we're wondering for a lot of people listening to the podcast or trainees kind of want to go into this biotech job market. So we're wondering if you give a little advice for people to how to break into it.
There's a lot of different ways here. I mentioned networking events, which are very important to really get an overview of the industry and get a good idea what are the opportunities, but also what do you like? Are you more interested in venture or large pharma or smaller pharma companies, and really thinking about also your own preferences. So. I did, for instance, the Myers-Briggs personality test. So that was very, insightful to really understand. Are you more of an extrovert, an introvert? Do you like to work, as a single contributor? Do you like to lead teams? So that's and what are really your strengths and weaknesses, and how can you develop those and work on those, and what is really the path forward here? So often when you get into a pharma company as a scientist, you start in a more scientific or medical job, and then you progress by leading larger and larger teams, working in different roles, working in different countries. So really, thinking about what is the path, where do you want to be eventually, or in 5 and 10 years, and what's the path to get there? That's, I think, very, very important. And talk to different people who have done this, so you get really an impression for is this really the job I want to do? And for VC specifically, many start as associates where they are basically using their scientific background to evaluate opportunities, and then they progress into the deal teams, and eventually you lead your own investments. So that's usually how that works. It's often sort of an apprentice model. There's no doing an MBA or something is not necessarily gonna get you there, and that's the other thing. Many people are thinking about that, and of course it's gives you another perspective and good connections. But also working at a consulting firm, one of the top ones, is great, because you get a lot of contacts and experience, and it's like a paid MBA. So you work you work with all these pharma companies, and they sometimes they the consulting company even pays for some additional education. So
Cool.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
good to hear. I guess there's tons of paths, but
Yeah.
it seemed like starting the business development commercial side was pretty valuable for you to eventually get into VC.
yeah, definitely.
Okay, I think we are talking about asking some question. So could you tell us a little more about your hobbies? We know you're a musician, is a high level of a violinist, and tell us about this, your hobby, and
Yeah, so I've been playing the violin since I was 5 years old, and I've played in orchestras and really all around the world, and was thinking about doing this professionally at some point. Luckily, one of the best advice I got was, you should do science. You're interested in that, and you can always keep the music on the side, and that's what I do now. It's a networking opportunity for me, but it's also I learned a lot of important lessons through that. So, for instance, I have been on stage since I was 5 years old. So I really know what happens when you're excited and how to use this excitement positively. So for instance, when I was at Roche and I had to speak to over 3,000 people, when you're in a global marketing role, you often have to do these presentations, and I was very comfortable doing that, for instance, and really, delivering on the spot. You have to practice and you have to be prepared, and and really, you have to also manage your time when you
the pressure, right? Because you have to do it like very short time.
And you don't have another
pitch.
chance. You have these 5-10 minutes, and you have to really deliver everything on the spot. So but also I learned a lot about teams and leadership. So you have the
Collaborative, definitely.
the violin team, and we all have to sound the same, and then you blend into the larger team, but also you pivot between being the leader when you're the concert master, and sometimes you play a solo, and that's different from being part of the orchestra, and I still do quite a lot of this. I recently played with the Longwood Symphony Orchestra here in Boston. That's the Doctors Orchestra, and they're just a wonderful orchestra, and they always they work with nonprofits, and this time they worked with us from the MMRF, and we're so grateful for this experience, and that was really wonderful. But I'm also venturing out a little bit, and I've played with the Checkpoints, which are a lot of Nobel Prize winners who play in a band, and I was the Texas fiddler there. I played with them at ASCO. So it's a wonderful hobby, but for me it's almost more than that.
Yeah, and it's cool you could tie in your career in science to your hobby as a violinist too. The fact that you could perform for kind of foundations and raising money for it. And I could attest that Stephanie is also very good at the violin too, because when we met, it was at this Bridging the Gap event organized by our previous co-president, Suf, and Luke Timmerman from the Timmerman Report. And not only was she a speaker at that event, she also performed with her quartet too, which I was impressed.
That was a lot of fun, yeah.
yeah, it was great. Everyone enjoyed getting to hear the music after all those talks. And very good kind of note too about the similarities of teamwork within music as well as science. And then another thing you do outside of science is that you're also MIT faculty as well, teaching a course. So could you tell us more about how you got involved with that and what you're doing?
Yeah, so that was very interesting too. I was at a mentoring event and sat next to one of the other mentors, and he introduced himself, and he said, "Oh, I'm teaching at MIT." And then afterwards, I was like, "Oh, I would love to teach at MIT." And he was like, "Oh, sure, just gonna introduce you to the professor there, and the rest is history." That's also one of these events where I thought this could never happen in Germany, where I'm from. So it's and what I do there is I'm with the other faculty members teaching healthcare ventures. So that's a course at the Sloan School where we have the students basically form teams and think about a problem statement, and then basically go through an abbreviated company formation exercise. And it's a mixture of experiential learning, but we also invite speakers who have started companies and share their experiences, and we also give them some theoretical lectures about fundraising and competitive positioning, et cetera, and it's just wonderful to see all these creative minds. And through that, I was also recently a judge at the Grand Hackathon at MIT, and yeah.
Yeah, I imagine it's really cool as someone who's like invested, been in a pharma company, to see like this next generation of people that want to get into it, and
Yes,
see
definitely.
them passionate about to get into the roles that you've been.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. And then we also see you're a chair of the McCloy Alumni Association. So just a little bit more about how you got involved with that.
Yeah, so I had a scholarship from Germany to attend the Harvard Kennedy School, and there are now about 350 alumni from Germany, so each year about 5 to 7. And so I'm chairing the McCloy, so it's called the McCloy program. And I'm chairing this association, and what we do is we connect transatlantically the German alumni and the Harvard Kennedy School. We organize webinars, and we also have an annual meeting in Berlin where we invite politicians and public officials. One of our alumni is actually the former German finance minister, so very, very, very interesting, and especially during these times, very, very interesting discussions.
Yeah, I imagine it's really nice too to be still a part of this organization, though, as like a big part of you as a trainee as well.
Yes. No, and it's great to see, where many of the alumni, what their path was. Some were in the private sector, some went in the public sector. So really a lot of very interesting people.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I think that was all the questions we want to ask, and we want to say thank you so much, Stephanie, for taking the time to take us on your journey from industry to VC. And also for your kind of support of the club, since you also helped out with the Career 101 session earlier this year. So I really want to thank you for being so involved with the Harvard Biotech Club.
Yeah,
thank
you so much.
Thank you so much. Really great to have this opportunity. Love to be involved with students, and love to give back all the benefits I got from being here at Harvard, and so glad that you're doing the podcast.
Yeah, we're glad to have you, and we'll be excited to have you for more events in the future.
I would love to. Thank you.
Yeah. So. Hi everyone, that's the end of this episode for the Harvard Griffin GSAS Biotech Club's The Pulse podcast. I want to thank Feng for helping co-host and produce this episode, and I want to thank everyone for listening, and please stay tuned for our next episode.